So, you want to hear a story, huh? One about treasure hunters. Have I got a story for you?
This is Twisted from OpenFire Gaming. Today I'm going to be reviewing Borderlands, and I'm going to see if it's good enough to warrant you taking a trip out to your local video game store, or should it just be left on the store shelf to collect dust. The concept of Borderlands is something that we have seen before, but it combines RPG elements, which is something, again, we have kind of seen before, but not quite this way. It's done things that have been done before, but it executes them very differently. You have a lot of RPG elements, such as loot and stats and such. So, you're going around and you find, guns on the ground and such, and it's not just like in other first-person shooters where you always find the same gun over and over. There is literally over 18 million guns available to you in Borderlands. That's more than I think every first-person shooter combined has in guns. And then you have a whole wide range of stats from skill, all passive skills, by the way. You don't have to activate any of them except for one, which is your action skill, which is nice because it makes the gameplay smooth and simple without having to keep hotkeying skills and such. Or you have weapon proficiencies in which you can increase the skill with your weapons, make them better. So overall, it's a very nice concept that we haven't quite touched on before, with a nice combination of gameplay, graphics, and other just a general concept that's nice. The graphics of Borderlands have been under debate for quite a while over the topic of it being cel-shaded or not. Some people like the cel-shaded idea. They think it adds a slight unrealistic tone to it, makes it a little bit more understandable, and it adds kind of that cartoony, more action hero type feel. Other people preferred the way it was originally going to be released, where it wasn't cel-shaded. It made it more of a gritty, hard reality kind of game. Honestly, I'm not going to try and take sides with either of this. I'm just pointing out the fact that it's cel-shaded, and there's advantages and disadvantages to that. However, after playing the game, you start to take less notice of the cel-shaded graphics. You're more concentrated on the guy who's shooting at you than the fact that there's a big black line tracing around him. So I think it's not exactly something that you should decide whether or not you should buy it over. However, there are a couple problems with the graphics here and there. I notice occasionally when using either high-powered shotguns at close range or explosives that when body parts are severed and the bodies, land on the ground, they get stuck underground where you'll just see a foot or a hand sticking up out of the dirt. This is a problem that could definitely have been remedied before release, but apparently it wasn't, and I've yet to see a patch for it. The overall style of Borderlands, though, is nice. It's an apocalyptic type feel with everything being made out of scrap metal and rebuilt, but it's not an apocalypse. It's left to understand that the planet you're on, Pandora, is just a wasteland. It's come about this way through neglect and just a harsh life. And it kind of has an Old West reminiscence feel with some of the characters, the way they look, and as well just the general environment where every day is a struggle to survive, which is a nice refresher from the overall apocalyptic feel that we find nowadays in games. Now we get to the story. Well, unfortunately, it sucks. The story is linear and fairly uninteresting, and it's the exact same thing regardless of which of the four characters you play as. It's just a very basic storyline. You show up for some reason, you're trying to find the vault, some mythical, keep of riches and power and fortune, and you're pretty much, effectively, your characters are now treasure hunters, and they're looking for this mythical place. Everyone's telling you it doesn't exist, but you blow off their obvious advice anyway. You're also being led around by an apparent guardian angel, some strange woman who appears to you in visions and is never explained throughout the entire game except for the opening cinematic where he just claims that she's some person leading you about. There's also no particular bad guy or enemy in the story. The Atlas Corporation is made out as the bad guys, but that's only because they're after the exact same thing you are. So effectively, the other three characters that you're not playing as could be equally equivalated as bad guys in this storyline. However, what pisses me off the most about this was there was a good storyline before release, but they cut it out in order to push up the game release so that they could get it out in November, which was a stupid move. Because before that, the original storyline was to be each character was showing up to, not only to find the vault, but they had some other reason for coming to Pandora. Mordecai the sniper was investigating someone's death who was apparently significant to him. Lilith was looking for potentially another siren, so leading to the fact that maybe sirens were dying missing or dead race. And Brick and Roland had equally odd and different reasons for showing up, but they all kind of pulled together onto this one planet. But the whole thing was dropped in just in order to push up the release date. That's a stupid move when you could have a game that could have been so much better just so you could get it out earlier. There were so many mechanics that could have been explored with the story. Atlas could have far more deep, sinister means for procuring the riches of the vault other than just more money. The Guardian Angel could have been taken over as a new plot line. She could have been used as a tool by Atlas. She could have betrayed you at one point. She could have been using you to try and further her own ends, but not in a sinister means, but more of like a kind of like she needs something out of the vault too, something like near and dear to her sort of thing, or she needs the power and now you're trying to like help her out. But none of this was ever explored, and you were just left to continue the game with a linear and crappy storyline that's easily forgettable. Despite, though, having a fairly forgettable and sucky storyline, the gameplay overall is very pleasing. 4-player co-op, either through LAN or online, is very entertaining to run around with all different characters, pulling off different moves and different skills, and just generally blowing stuff up. Every character has a sort of feel that they kinda should stick to. Mordecai is most likely going to stay as a sniper. Roland is more of a shock troop. Brick, a tank, and of course Lilith is kind of your assassin slash high damage dealer. But every character can easily be tweaked and modified through their skills to support any role. For example, Mordecai is equally efficient with sniper rifles and revolvers as he is with shotguns and rocket launchers, because your skills don't always pertain to particular weapons, they just overall boost things that you kinda should stick with. But again, everything is completely up to you. Equally as up to you is your weapons. Again, with over 18 million weapons, there's a lot to choose from. However, what I would have liked to see is then further customization with your weapons, being able to buy or take apart other weapons and then use them as upgrades. For example, if you find a weapon that's really nice but you wish you had a scope, you could find another weapon somewhere and disassemble it and then take that scope and throw it on there, allowing you to add this personalization feel to your weapons, as well as even just simple things like changing the color and design on them. Overall, the gameplay is very action-packed. Being able to run around, there's very few points in which you're left not doing anything unless you're doing like mission grinding here and there. But overall, enemies abound, so it's easy to get yourself worked into a fight. There are some mechanics that could have been improved, particularly the weapons proficiency. Although it is nice to being able to get better with the weapons that you prefer and upgrade them, and they slowly become stronger and stronger. What I would have liked to see was sort of an end, like, bonus ability or something. Once you reach a proficiency of 25, that's it. There's no addition after that. You just move on to the next weapon. What I would like to see is, like with handguns, when you reach 25, you get kind of like a bonus ability. So now handguns can be wielded in an akimbo style, or if you get rocket launcher proficiency to 25, they can lock on to their targets so you don't miss as much. Things like that. But sadly, there was no addition like that, and overall, leaving the stat building kind of wanting more. But overall, an excellent game. I would definitely recommend picking it up if you haven't already. And this has been Twisted from Open Fire Gaming, and play hard out there.